Hey everybody, so this video is going to talk about potty training. It's mainly for puppies, but the tips that we give you in the video will also work for older dogs that are having potty training issues. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to teach a potty cue. It's really important to establish a clear potty cue. This is what you'll use when you take your dog out to potty, is you're going to stand there with them and you're going to repeat "go potty" over and over until they go. Go potty. Go potty. Good, go potty. The reason we use this is because sometimes when we take our dogs out, they get distracted or sidetracked and they forget that they have to go. So by having a cue that's telling them we want them to go, it keeps them on track. In the beginning stages, make sure that you take your puppy to the same exact spot outside every time you take them out to go potty. We want to develop predictable habits. So if you're taking them to the same location, it's going to help them to go. If you're changing the location a lot, it might be more difficult to teach them to go on cue. So make sure the first thing you do, you're going to take your dog out of their crate, you're going to walk outside with them to the exact spot that you want them to go in. Have them on leash in the beginning just to block them and prevent them from wandering off and going other places. And then that's when you're going to say "go potty" until they go. Try to bring them to a outdoor surface like grass, dirt, gravel, bark to have them go. We don't recommend doing it on concrete or on a surface that's very similar to what you have in your house. You know, concrete's very similar to tile, so you might be teaching your dog that it's okay to go on that kind of surface. Once they're comfortable going on one surface, then start to alternate the surface that they're pottying on. So you can start off with grass. Once they're comfortable there, teach them to potty on dirt or gravel so that they're comfortable going anywhere. You should also alternate, sometimes having your dog on leash, sometimes off leash when they're pottying. In the very beginning, it's helpful to have them on leash just so that you can prevent them from wandering off and make sure that they go in that spot. But once they're comfortable going on leash, sometimes do it off leash as well. So as soon as you bring them to the spot where you want them to go, you're gonna start repeating "go potty," and you're gonna wait till they go. When they start to go, calmly praise them. So you're gonna say "good, go potty." Okay, free. Let's go. Go potty. Go potty. Go potty. Good, go potty. Good, go potty. Don't get too excited because that might interrupt them from pottying, and then they might come to you because they think they're getting attention. So keep it pretty calm. Make sure that you don't reward them with a treat after they go. The reason we don't do this is because some dogs, if they have the expectation they're gonna get a treat, then anytime you take them out to potty, they're gonna be more focused on you and getting the treat, and they might forget that they have to go. So don't reward with food, just praise. And also the reward for them is going to the bathroom. I'm sure all of you know it feels relieving to go to the bathroom, so that is rewarding in itself. Good, go potty. Good. So generally, we give our dogs about 3 to 5 minutes to go. So we're not gonna stand out there all day and wait for them to go. If you're out there for 10, 15, 20 minutes and they still haven't gone, then put them back in their crate and then wait about 15 to 30 minutes and take them out and try it again. But give them about 3 to 5 minutes, and if they haven't gone by that point, they might not have to go, or they might not have to go enough. So it's okay then to put them back in their crate and just do it again. But we do want our dog to go relatively quickly once we give them the cue to go. So if your dog doesn't potty within 3 to 5 minutes, don't bring them back inside and let them be free. Immediately put them back in their crate. If our dog didn't just go potty outside, we don't want to bring them and let them be loose in the house because there's a really good chance that they're going to go. But if they just peed, and even better, if they just peed and pooped outside, there's very little chance that they're gonna pee or poop when we bring them inside, so it's much safer to let them be free in the house at that point. All right, next we wanna talk about crate training. So the crate is by far the most effective potty training tool. The reason they work so well is because dogs naturally don't want to pee or poop where they have to lay. Now, when you're first starting crate training, it's normal for dogs to have an accident occasionally. This is just part of the learning process. But if you're being proactive and you're letting them out frequently enough, they should learn to hold it while they're in there. All right, so let's talk about size. So the crate should be small enough that your dog only has enough room to comfortably stand up, turn around, and lay down in it. It shouldn't be so big that your dog can pee or poop in one corner and then lay in the other corner to avoid it. It's best to have the crate close to the door. So if you have, for example, a 2-story house, it's not ideal to have your puppy in a crate in the 2nd story, because then it's going to take you a long time to walk them out and they might pee along the way. But you can have 2 crates. So for example, you can have 1 crate upstairs and then another crate close to the door, so that at night you can have your puppy in the crate in the bedroom with you, so you can hear when they have to potty. Then during the day, have them in the downstairs crate that's near the door. So how often should you let your puppy or your dog out? This depends on a lot of factors. It depends on their breed, their age, their temperament. It depends on how soon you have given them water or food. Generally, puppies under 12 weeks old can't hold it for a full 8 hours overnight. So most likely you're gonna have to let your puppy out a couple times overnight. During the day, we generally add about 1 hour per month of their age. So for example, if they're 3 months old, generally they can hold it about 3 hours during the day. At 4 months old, about 4 hours, 5 months, 5 hours, but every dog's a little different and it's not always a linear process. So for example, sometimes dogs are making good progress on holding it, and then all of a sudden they hit a point where they can't hold it as long because maybe their body is growing faster than their bladder. So be prepared to adjust this, right? If your dog's starting to have accidents, it means you're not letting them out frequently enough. If your dog generally on average can hold it for about 3 hours, but let's say you just gave them a bunch of water, you're probably gonna have to let them out sooner. So factor in if they just guzzled a bunch of water, if you gave them a lot of food or a new food, a food they're not used to. If there are multiple people in your house that are taking care of your dog, it can help to keep a potty log so you can track when the last time they pottied. A common question we get is, how will my dog let me know when they have to go to the bathroom? What are some signs to look for? In their crate, most dogs will start to whine, vocalize, bark. Sometimes they'll scratch at the door. Sometimes they'll start pacing, getting restless when they have to go. So if your dog's in their crate and you notice them do some of these behaviors and you're fairly certain that it's because they have to go potty, then it's important to let them out. The tricky thing is that sometimes dogs will do these same behaviors just when they want attention. So you have to distinguish between, is my dog whining because they have to potty, or are they just demanding attention? So what are some things to look for? So let's say your dog's been in their crate for 3 hours and you've just been sitting at your computer working, or maybe you've just been sitting on the couch or something. And then all of a sudden, just spontaneously, your dog starts to whine. They start to pace. They start to get anxious, restless. But it doesn't coincide with you doing anything, right? It's not like you walked in the house and then they started doing that. It's not like you walked up to their crate and then they started whining. They just started whining. Most likely, that is probably because they have to potty. Here's another example. So let's say your dog just peed and pooped outside, and then you bring them in, you put them back in their crate. If your dog starts to whine soon after that, let's say they start whining right away, right after you put them in their crate, or they go in their crate, they're quiet for 5 minutes, and then they start whining. Most likely, it's not because they have to potty, because they just pottied outside. So that's another sign that they don't really have to go. So it's important that you aren't letting your dog out when they're whining or barking for attention, because then you'll be rewarding that behavior, but you do want to let them out if they're whining because they have to go to the bathroom. So when should your dog be in their crate, and how often should you put them in the crate? Anytime you aren't supervising your puppy, they should be in their crate. We also put our dogs in their crate overnight, because obviously we're not supervising them when we're asleep. Anytime you leave the house, put them in the crate. But even if you're home, let's say you're busy doing something else, you're working, you have guests over, and you can't really supervise them, they should also go in their crate. You can also put them in an X-pen, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So another question, when can your dog be free in the house? If your dog just pottied outside, then it's safe to give them a little bit of free time in the house. Remember to supervise them though. But remember, if you take your dog outside to potty and they don't within about 3 to 5 minutes, then put them back in their crate. What are some ways that dogs signal that they have to go to the bathroom when they're not in their crate? So most dogs will start pacing. A lot of dogs will go to a spot and then they'll start to circle. You know, they'll walk over and then they'll start doing this. If you see your dog doing this, most likely they're about to go potty. So as soon as you see your dog signaling, like we just described, they start pacing, they start circling in one spot, you want to interrupt them right away. So you're going to call their name, say, hey, puppy, 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 then get a leash on them or just walk with them over to the door. They'll follow you over to the door, open it, take them outside to potty. By doing that, by making that a routine, your dog should eventually start learning, oh, when I have this feeling, when I need to go to the bathroom, I just go over to the door. Then your dog should start going over to the door when they have to go. All right, let's go over some important nighttime tips. Don't give your dog water at least an hour before bedtime. Don't feed them at least 2 hours before bedtime. So the next tool we want to talk about is the X-Pen. The X-Pen is a great transition tool from the crate. It basically acts as an expandable crate. So you can keep the area relatively small still, but you can also expand it slowly over time so you give your dog more space to move around in. Now Riot here, she's a little bit older and she has good potty training already. So we're giving her more space in here, but for young puppies, when you're first introducing them to an X-Pen, make the area the same size as the crate. But this is a great tool to use if you're kind of busy doing other things, like, you know, maybe you're cooking dinner or maybe you're, you know, watching TV and you don't really want to have to supervise your puppy the whole time, but you want to give them a little more freedom. The X-Pen is great for that. So if this were a young puppy and is their first time or first week, first couple weeks in the X-Pen, this should be about the size of the area. As your puppy's having success not peeing or pooping in their crate, you can slowly start to expand it. So every week or so, you can make it a little bit bigger, but if they're starting to have accidents in it, then you need to make it smaller. You need to go back a step. Next, I want to talk about potty pads. We don't recommend using potty pads because dogs can't really distinguish between a potty pad and a bath mat or a towel or a rug. Right, so if you're teaching your dog it's okay to go on a potty pad in the house, they're really likely to pee on a mat or a towel or a blanket in the house as well. So if you don't have a backyard or an outdoor space, for example, if you live in an apartment, then it is okay to use a potty pad, but put it outside. So if you have a balcony or a porch or an outdoor area, put the potty pad out there. Otherwise, if you have an outdoor space, make sure you're teaching your dog to potty out there. They also make artificial turf areas that you can set up somewhere, or litter boxes. There are some other options that are better than potty pads. All right, next let's talk about what to do if your dog potties in the house. So remember, dogs live in the moment. So they don't remember what they did 5 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, 30 seconds ago. So if your dog peed or pooped in the house and it happened in the past, you can't correct them for it. You can't correct your dog for a behavior they did in the past because they're not going to understand why they're getting corrected. You have to catch them in the act. The best way to correct your dog if you catch them in the act of pottying is try to interrupt them before they actually go. So remember earlier we talked about a lot of times dogs will start to circle in place right before they potty. As soon as you see your dog do that, make a loud startling noise and interrupt them, right? So you're gonna say, hey, puppy, 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 puppy. When you do that, if they then turn and look at you and go, oh, what's happening? Then go over to them, put a leash on, or just call them to you, walk over to the door, take them out. The other scenario that might happen is your dog is in the act of peeing or pooping, right? So at this point, you can still interrupt them. So if you just startle them really quick, sometimes they'll stop. But if they're going, then at that point, it is appropriate to give them a correction and let them know that that's bad and that they shouldn't do that again. Talk to your trainer about the best way to do that. Usually it involves first giving them a really stern no, and then sometimes we do follow up with a little bit more, but talk to your trainer about what is best for your puppy or your dog. So if you catch them and you correct them, it's okay to be mad initially at them, but don't stay mad. As soon as they stop and they acknowledge that, oh, they made a mistake, then don't be mad at them anymore. Just encourage them, say, hey, puppy, puppy. Walk with them out to the door, walk outside, and then tell them to go potty. So don't stay mad at them. You need to switch your mood up once you've interrupted and stopped them from pottying in the house. So what are some helpful tools that will help us correct our dog if they potty in the house? One is the leash. So it can be helpful to have your puppy drag a leash when they're free in the house, so that if you catch them going to the bathroom, you can say no, you can grab the leash, you can use the leash to give a little correction, or you can just use it to bring them outside with you at that point. Other thing you can do with the leash is tether it to you, so that you don't have to worry about your puppy wandering in another room where you can't see them and you're not able to catch them in the act. So you're just gonna clip a carabiner to the end of your leash, and the leash is on your dog, and then they just follow you around. So they're right there with you, so you can supervise them more carefully. So what if you catch them after the fact? Remember, if they pottied in the past, you didn't catch them doing it, it's too late. You can't really do anything about that to your puppy. All you need to do at that point is take your puppy outside to potty, give them about 3 to 5 minutes. If they don't go, put them back in their crate, clean up the area as best as possible so you get rid of all that smell, so your dog doesn't associate that it's okay to potty in the house. And then what you need to do is you need to be more proactive. It means you failed and you weren't supervising them closely enough, so you need to go back a step to using your management tools, the crate, the X-Pen, and then make sure anytime they're out and they're free that you're really closely watching them. And you also might need to give them more frequent potty breaks. So what's the difference between pottying and marking? They're very different things. So marking is when your dog is marking their territory. Most of the time, it is intact males that will mark. Occasionally, females will also do it as well. And usually what happens is your dog will lift their leg on some type of object. Usually it is a vertical. Hopefully, is that a good depiction? Hopefully you guys can get an idea of that. This doesn't mean that they have to go to the bathroom. It just means they want to mark that spot. So if you catch your dog doing that, you can correct them for it. Same thing though, you got to catch them in the act of doing it. Next, let's talk about submissive peeing. This is also very different than pottying. A dog that submissive pees is a dog that is overwhelmed or scared. It almost always coincides with somebody reaching or petting or bending over your dog. This puts spatial pressure on dogs, and some dogs get a little bit nervous when this happens and they involuntarily pee. And that's the key, it's involuntary. So your dog doesn't really have control over it, which means don't correct them. Don't get mad at them if they submissive pee, because it might actually make it worse. It might make them more stressed in the future. They might do it more. A lot of dogs will also excitement pee, which means when they get overstimulated and excited by things, it usually happens if somebody comes up to them and is like, oh, hey, cool puppy, and they act really excited. A lot of times dogs will feed off that energy and they'll just start peeing. So submissive peeing, excitement peeing are both kind of similar. It is an involuntary response where dogs don't really have control over it. So what needs to happen is you need to change your behavior, or the person that's interacting with your dog that's causing them to submissive or excitement pee, they need to change their behavior. Last thing I want to talk about is when you take your dog to a new environment. So let's say you take your puppy to your friend's house. It's a new location, they haven't been there before, or they're not as used to that spot. Then you want to take a step back and use your management tools more. So if you've been giving your puppy more free time at your house and they've been successful and okay with that, you might not be able to give them free time at your friend's house because they're not familiar with, there's not the routine that they're used to there. So make sure that you're taking that into account. And that's it for a potty training video. If you have any other questions, please reach out to us, and good luck.